Gorman Brothers. The Gorman Brothers, Billy and Eddie Gorman, were a pair of vaudevillian entertainers and songwriters from Chicago, who performed across the United States and Canada from the early 1910s to the early 1930s. The Gormans expanded their act to radio, doing weekly broadcasts in the late 1920s. The brothers used local news stories to create songs for their act. During their show business career, Billy and Eddie Gorman also contributed music and lyrics to several published and recorded songs. Early life. William Charles Billy Gorman was born on 31 March 1889. His younger brother Edward Aloysius Eddie Gorman was born 27 June 1892. They were the sons of William East Gorman, an Irish immigrant who worked as a stationary engineer, and Mary East Halloran Gorman, a piano salesperson, originally from Canada. While still in the early stages of his entertainment career, Billy played ball for the Decatur 3A League baseball team, the Commodores. He was the team's manager and shortstop. By the first half of 1913, his performance on the field had notably suffered, and after being replaced as the manager, he was sold to the Terre Haute Club of the Central League in July of that year. During his time there, he was praised as being a fast and aggressive player. He finished one season with this club and was traded to the Victoria BC Club of the Northwest League. However, he refused to report to this club and was subsequently released from it. By November of 1914, he had given up the sport entirely to work in show business with his younger brother Eddie and their accompaniment pianist, J. Walter Leopold. Eddie had worked as a railroad clerk and later as an on-the-street newspaper reporter for the Chicago Tribune during his brother's baseball career. While the act started out on the road as the Gorman Brothers and Leopold's name disappeared from the billings after January of 1915, and from then on, the team was featured only as the Gorman Brothers. Vaudeville. The Gorman Brothers wrote all original songs for their acts, often drawing from news events of the day that were relevant to the locations they played. A feature article on their work described how they would get up in the morning, go to the editorial room of the local newspaper, and, as the news copy comes from the telegraph operators, the vaudevillians cast their respective eagle eyes over it and select 5 or 6 items for jingling purposes. Another source explained, the men subscribed to the local newspaper for about 3 weeks before they arrive at the town where they are scheduled to play. In this manner, they are able to wear the news stories to fit their music. Credited with such names as the Boys with 1,000 Songs, the Singing Reporters, and the Kings of Character Singing, they entertained in many cities across the U.S. and Canada. They were rarely the headliners, but the entertainment sections of the newspapers frequently reviewed their performances. Below are a few examples. Date, publicized newspaper, location, venue, performance notes, 7 March 1913, Suburbanite Economist, Chicago. I.L. Yale Theatre, the greatest of all harmony and character singers, 19 of 1914, The Daily Times, Davenport, I.A. Columbia Theatre. These boys know how to put them over with a kick in them, 20 of 1914, Quad City Times, Davenport, I.A. Majestic Theatre, The Act of Gorman Brothers and Leopold is one of the hits of the current Majestic Bill, 19 Jan 1915, The Bridgeport Times and Evening Former Bridgeport, C.T. Plaza Theatre. The audience responded so heartily that they came back for 2 encores. 9 April 1916, the But Minor But MT Impes Theatre, not only sing entertainingly, but sing their own song compositions. 5 May 1918, the Atlanta Constitution, Atlanta. G.A. Lowell's Grand Theatre, comedians with exceptional voices and original repertoire. 20 1 Deck 1918, the Charlotte's Observer, Charlotte. NC Academy Theatre. Swift and surefire humorous strokes and rapid-fire repartee, they have been much applauded during the week. 8 April 1919, the Brooklyn Taylor Eagle, Brooklyn, NY Flatbush Theatre. The Gorman Brothers offer somewhat different tacks and one instant favour last night. 30 September 1919, Newcastle Herald, Newcastle, PA Coliseum Theatre. Their singing and their presentation is irresistible. 28 February 1920, the Anaconda Standard, Anaconda, MT Pantages. The capacity audience last night were reluctant in letting the boys go, and their song, Beautiful Eggs, received round upon round of applause. 23 March 1920, the Vancouver Sun, Vancouver, BC Pantages. The Gorman Brothers offer a likeable repertoire of popular song hits and they sing them in a manner which gets home instantly. For 1920 won the Akron Beacon General Akron OH Colonial Theatre judging solely by applause. The freshly minted $10 gold piece goes to the brothers Gorman. 5 Sep 1922 the Richmond Palladium and Sun Telegram Richmond. In Mary Theatre the boys are clever. It is with real enthusiasm that the audience recalls the brothers for further entertainment. 14 April 1924 the Scranton Times Scranton PA Poly Theatre. The Gorman Brothers have voices above the average. It is a classy musical offering and one of the finest in vaudeville. 19 Jan 1926 the Akron Beacon General Akron OH Colonial Theatre. Their clever comedy songs are stopping the show at the Colonial in the first half of this week. April 1927 Lansing State General Lansing My Strand Theatre. They have good voices and the actors are high spot in the card for the last half. 1 Feb 1928 the Windsor Soul Windsor Ontario Capitol Theatre. These singing reporters set local topics to music and give the current vaudeville bill a decidedly novel twist. 9 Jan 1932 Green Bay Press Gazette Green Bay WIO theme 2 Facoted Gentlemen. The Gorman Brothers are on in the third spot in the bill. Reading from the Press Gazette, the boys picked out several headlines and advertisements and proceeded to say the words to music. Early in 1932, the Gorman Brothers' names stopped appearing in the newspapers. Vaudeville had met its end as an art form by then with the introduction of talking movies and the impact on the economy from the Great Depression. The brothers did not appear to have made a transition to the silver screen, and there is no known footage of them performing their acts. Radio. In the late 1920s, the Gormans had taken their act to the airwaves, reaching a larger audience as the singing reporters in a weekly broadcast for the National Broadcasting Company. The broadcasts reached fans in Springfield, Baltimore, Rochester, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. Songwriting. In addition to creating all new songs for their act, the brothers are credited with a number of published and recorded musical works. These include Why Don't They Dance, The Good Old Dances of Ireland. 1912 lyrics and the sheet music are credited to Eddie Gorman, yet a newspaper article attributes the song to his brother Billy. Sailing Through the Panama Canal. 1914 music by J. Walter Leopold. Anna in Indiana. 1921 written with Harry Rose and Effie Ferris. Recorded on Edison Blue Emperor Cylinder in 1921 with vocalist Aileen Stanley. All by Myself. 1921 written with Aileen Stanley, Harry Rose, Arthur Fields. Recorded on 78 Upham disc in 1921 with Aileen Stanley, comedian, and Irving Berlin's orchestra and Arthur Fields, tenor. With Irving Berlin's orchestra. Mammy's Little Angel, Chile. 1921 written with Harry Rose, Marita Car. 1921 When She Walks Car. 1921 Ain't We Got Ambition Car. 1920 Theatre Boy, P.T. Old Boy Car. 1922 Revenge Is Sweet Car. 1922 That Was Before I Was Married Car. 1922 I've Had 57 Varieties of Sweethearts. 1922 recorded on Edison disc in of 1922. Featuring vocalist Billy Jones. The Gorman Brothers had recorded themselves on a novelty version of this song as a quartet, with Billy singing second tenor and Eddie singing first tenor, baritone, and bass by making multiple pass recordings as Eddie sang a new part to the old recording with each new pass. Billy carried around the one and only recording of this disc. When Greek Meets Greek. 1923 written with Edward Fernan, W. Nash, Harry Von Tilzer, recorded on 78 Upham disc on 1923 with vocalist Furman and Nash. Eddie Cantor's Song and Joke Book. 1930 written with Eddie Cantor, includes parodies to Sinking in the Rain, Tiptoe Through the Tulips, and Sunny Side Up, with songs titled Oh Yeah, I Found a Through Street to Happiness, Don't Go to the Poor House Mother, and When I Waltz With You Waltzing. 1913. Later Life. Eddie and Billy, together with Billy's wife Josephine and their children Elaine, Dolores, and William, lived with their mother, Mary, in Chicago up through the 1940s. Mary died on 17 July 1945. Her husband, William, had died many years earlier, on 25 October 1914. According to the occupation section in the 1940 census, the brothers had continued their show business careers as nightclub entertainers. Billy, a long-time golf professional, became the owner of Gorman's golf practice range established in 1938 in Cicero, Ill, and simultaneously held a position as a golf pro at Golfmoor Golf Club in nearby Oakland, Ill. In 1939, he appeared in a newspaper ad for Mr. Bradbury, where he was shown giving golf lessons to onlookers. His 1942 draft registration card still listed his place of employment as Golfmoor. Eddie, who had not married, died on 17 May 1957 at the age of 64. Billy passed away a few years later on 8 of 1961 at age 72. Both are buried in Hillsdale, Illinois.